Hi there, it's Kate Rowan here. I'm a personal trainer and the founder of 50 Fitness. Now, I started 50 Fitness with a mission to provide fitness services and information for people over 50 that will actually change their approach to exercise and make it a prized and not negotiable part of their lives, rather than a chore or something to feel bad about. Now, while I'm focused on the needs of over 50s fairly and squarely, many of my messages are relevant to people of all ages, so I hope there's something in this episode for you. Now, as a personal trainer, my approach to health and well-being is through exercise. So I'm going to talk to you today about the three well-known aspects of fitness and how they're all important. But I'm also going to talk to you about my philosophy of exercise because I believe there's actually a fourth and equally powerful aspect of fitness that's highly relevant to the bigger picture of personal well-being. Now, I think that we all know that exercise is something that we should do. Even if we couldn't actually name any of the specific benefits of exercise, it's fairly general knowledge that exercise is good for us. Now, I don't want you to worry. I'm going to present some technical information about the physical benefits of exercise in this video, but I'm not going to be preachy and judgmental about it. I totally understand the many and varied barriers there are to regular exercise habits. What my aim today is to present an alternative perspective about how exercise can make us feel mentally and emotionally, and how that can contribute to managing just the demands of modern life and stress. So, as it says here on the slide, knowing that exercise is good for us doesn't mean that we do it. So what I believe is that we need an alternative perspective that relates to how exercise can make us feel. Now, as a personal trainer who helps people over 50, and I'm an over 50 with a family history myself, I'm really interested in heart disease prevention. And relevant to what I'm going to talk about today are the psychosocial risk factors for heart disease. So these are depression and social isolation or lack of social support. And these have actually been identified through research as risk factors in their own right, with impact as significant as the classic heart disease risk factors of smoking, high blood pressure, and high blood cholesterol. And, back in the olden days when I was a nurse, I remember seeing stress listed as a risk factor for heart disease. And it doesn't appear on such lists anymore because stress is not actually a risk factor in itself for heart disease. But stress is an important consideration because it is implicated as a contributing factor to depression. And depression is a risk factor for heart disease. So, this is relevant to what I'm talking about today. How does this relate to the topic of today's episode? Well, there are three well-known aspects of fitness called the three S's. These are strength, stamina, and suppleness. And ideally, our fitness routine should have a combination of these. And I'm going to outline these in this video, and explain their purpose because it's useful to understand how they contribute to our well-being. But I'm also going to introduce what I believe to be the fourth aspect of fitness, and I actually call that serenity, another word that starts with S, and I rate that as the most important aspect of fitness. The other three S's relate to the physical aspects of fitness, but from my point of view, there's a mental and emotional aspect of fitness that we derive through working on those other three S's. So let me first go through those three well-known S's of fitness, and then I'm going to explain how serenity evolves from those. So first of all, we have stamina, also known as endurance. So there's some points about stamina or endurance listed on the slide there. So this relates to our ability to sustain physical activity. And I reckon it's the aspect of fitness, the type of fitness activity that we most associate with the health benefits of exercise. The duration and intensity that you choose depends on the outcomes that you want. So, for example, if you want to train to run a marathon or do triathlons or some really big endurance event, your training is going to look different to someone who just is interested in working on their general health and well-being. So it's up to your goals as to how much and how intense you do endurance exercise. There are so many options, there are so many things that we can try, and it's just basically any continuous activity at a sustainable pace for an extended period of time. So something that's longer than 30 minutes that gets us a bit sweaty and a little bit puffy. Now, a key indicator for improvement in our endurance fitness is a decreased resting heart rate. So we can indicate that by checking our pulse rate. So a slowing in our pulse rate indicates an improvement in our endurance fitness. So a normal heart rate for an adult is about 60 to 100 beats per minute, but people with good endurance fitness have heart rates, less than 60, even less than 50 beats per minute. And the other thing about endurance training is that if you're short on time, you can do shorter than 30-minute workouts, but at much higher intensity. So you can scale endurance training intensity versus the duration for efficiency. Okay, now endurance training, as I've explained it so far, relates to the heart, cardiovascular fitness. But endurance training also builds stamina in the muscles that we use to do these activities. And muscular endurance has standalone importance. It's important in its own right. Our muscles need staying power to maintain our good posture and just to, carry out our daily living activities as well as all the leisure activities that we love. So we want to have good endurance in our muscles to be able to do those physical activities that we enjoy. And muscular endurance can be improved through strength training, which brings me to the next aspect of fitness. So strength. We need to work on strength for the reasons that I've got outlined here on this slide. So we want to maintain it for good posture and maintaining our balance and mobility. Having strength feeds into all those things, and just doing the things that we enjoy doing. So we want to have the strength, if you love gardening, you want to have this physical strength to be able to do your gardening. If you love playing golf, you can develop strength so that you can keep playing golf for as long as you want to. Just a couple of examples. This is so important as we get older. So, we're all familiar with aging people, that image of people getting older and just becoming frail. So there's loss of strength, loss of muscular strength, and consequently bone strength is a huge contributing factor to frailty in old age. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can maintain our strength and avoid that frailty of old age. We improve strength by doing movements against resistance. So that can be our own body weight, working against our own body weight, or using weights or bands, anything that puts a little bit of resistance on a movement. Doesn't have to happen in a gym. I think a lot of people associate strength training with having to go to the gym. Certainly don't have to do that. And something about strength training, a side effect, I suppose, or a thing that happens is hypertrophy, which is an increase in muscle size. And just a point about that, I'm not talking about, bodybuilder, huge, bulky hypertrophy. If that's your goal, then that takes a really specific regime of strength training and eating. You've got to eat to in a certain way to really bulk up like that. But for most people who are just doing general strength training to maintain strength, the hypertrophy, most people would describe that as definition, muscle definition or toning. But what's happening is your muscles are increasing in size. So they might look more defined or more toned, but they're just getting a little bit bigger as a consequence of strength training. And, improvements in strength, we can gauge that by being able to lift heavier weights, lift heavier things, needing to make exercises harder, or being able to do more in our leisure activities. And we might also notice an improvement in our endurance activities as well, because our muscle endurance will also increase with our muscle strength. Now, the third S of fitness is suppleness or flexibility. And the key points about suppleness are on the slide here. So what we mean by flexibility is the range of movement that we have about our joints. And it's a key component of mobility. So it decreases with age, and the most common thing that I see is the most common thing people tell me as they're getting older is difficulty getting down onto the floor and getting back up again. So we really want to be able to get down and up off the floor as we get older. It's so important. So the good news is that we can maintain our flexibility by keeping our connective tissue healthy through exercise. And then the most commonly known, the most well-known way to improve our flexibility is through stretching. And stretching is really important. Now, here's a couple of things that I also reckon about stretching. So I think stretching is great for people who are not currently doing any exercise. Stretching can be a great place to start and provide a gateway to increasing physical activity. So you could start a journey to regular physical activity with 5 minutes of daily dynamic stretching. And so dynamic stretching, what I mean by that is moving your joints through range of motion in a dynamic way. So not holding a static stretch, but, for example, shoulder rolls, or there's lots of examples of dynamic stretches. And that 5-minute daily warm-up could evolve into a warm-up for a workout, as doing that helps you improve your motivation and desire to increase physical activity. Then the other thing that I reckon about stretching is that, when you progress into doing regular exercise, it's great to do static stretching. So that's the stretches where we stretch and hold. It's great to do these at the end of a workout. So at the end of a workout, when we're cooling down, doing our stretching, that's when I reckon the serenity can start to kick in. So when you're doing that stretching after a workout, where you might have challenged yourself a bit, you can feel a buzz in your body, feel energized, and you might also feel proud and satisfied with what you've just done. And that's the serenity. That's part of the serenity that I'm talking about. So let me explain more fully about this serenity that I've come up with. So it might seem absurd to you. How can doing vigorous exercise be calming? I don't necessarily mean the physical activity itself is soothing, although it certainly can be if you're doing something like swimming or yoga or going for a walk out in nature in a beautiful location. It's not necessarily the participation time that I'm talking about. It's the feeling that carries over after the workout and into everyday life. That's the vibe. That's what I'm talking about with the serenity. So exercise is increasingly advocated as part of an overall plan for mental health and well-being, as well as physical health. And we have endorphins that play a role in this. So endorphins and other naturally occurring hormones and chemicals that our body produces during exercise, they are associated with these feelings of enhanced mood and general well-being. So there's that plays a part. Also playing a part, I believe, is that exercise is a chance to take a break from your daily demands. So taking a break, taking some time out to release tension. So physical activity can release tension, and it can help us process emotion, how we're feeling emotionally. Movement can help us do that. And depending on what exercise you do, it can also give us a chance to be in nature and connecting with other people. And these connections, they can help mitigate some of the social isolation that we saw previously as a risk factor for heart disease. Now, while it might take weeks or months of training to improve stamina, strength, and suppleness, the benefit of serenity is felt much more quickly, if not immediately. So I believe serenity is the most rapid benefit of exercise. And rather than tracking progress, taking a fitness test, or some other measure of improvement, some flexibility test, we can simply think about how much better we feel when we're exercising to know that it's working. So this is my main advocacy for exercise. So, I believe that we should just give exercise a go mainly for the benefit of serenity. We can take the pressure off ourselves for all the shoulds, all those reasons that, I should be exercising. We can just put those aside and just do some exercise for the enjoyment and feeling good, and just enjoy that feeling. And that way we can tick all the boxes next to all those should do's without thinking about it too much or overthinking it. So, top tips for getting started. So if you're not doing any physical activity, it's really important just to start small and build gradually and pick something that you enjoy. So, there's nothing worse than making a commitment to do some exercise and then going and doing something that's really hard and you feel trashed and sore the next day and really turned off exercise. So I have the opposite approach. So just start small. Start by doing 5 minutes of daily dynamic stretching. Start by going for a 10-minute walk and just build up ever so gradually from there. And enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed me talking about my philosophy of exercise and this fourth S of fitness, the serenity. And I'd love to know what you think. Bye for now.